Jeff Slauson here from 19 News Now at the 19 News Digital Desk. On Friday, Silicon Valley Bank closed, effectively changing the way that banking was done for many, many people, many businesses in the country. This is the 14th largest bank in the entire country. We have not seen something like this happen in more than a decade, essentially since the financial collapse in 2008. So what does this mean? For many people, they may not think that this is that big of a deal. For many people, they may think this is a massive deal. Where do you stand and where you should be standing? It's actually a pretty important distinction. So we spoke with the experts earlier today kind of about what this means, about where we are, about where we're going, and how you should be reacting to this, but also for many companies, how they'll be handling it. While yes, this is a West Coast-based bank, many companies in the area still use them, still do banking through them, do banking with them. And that means that they have thousands of dollars that were tied up and didn't necessarily know where they'd be getting it from. Maybe they're paying their employees through that bank. Where do you get the money from if that bank is not able to access your cash? These are questions that we ask. These are questions that many want answers to. And again, we spoke with experts earlier today, and here's what they had to say about exactly where and what you should be thinking of when it comes to the impact of this. Now, before we do get to that interview really quickly, I do want to hit on, we know that this can be a pretty difficult topic here, and we know that this can be pretty difficult to understand. We tried to break it down into the easiest, most digestible ways possible, and I think we were able to accomplish that. Just to kind of start, let's start broad here, and then we'll zone in a little bit more. For people that are sitting at home and thinking, why should I care about Silicon Valley Bank closing? Why is this a big deal? Why does this matter for us all the way over in Ohio?
Well, I think it matters for any city that has an entrepreneurial ecosystem, and so companies that potentially had either banked with Silicon Valley Bank or were looking to get acquire VC dollars or things like that, they should be concerned because now it's going to change the way that they're looking at their forecast for the year and where they're going to have dollars available for them to be able to continue to do what they do. You
have some. It's clients or businesses that you work with, right, that are associated with them or were associated with them?
Well, actually, yes. So we invest in companies, B2B SaaS companies across the country, including here in Ohio. We're based in Westlake. And so we actually reached out to all of our portfolio companies on Friday to understand what their exposure would be. And we identified, fortunately, only 2 of them were with Silicon Valley Bank. So we immediately started working with them to understand kind of what that exposure looks like and then kind of next steps to help them navigate through that.
Yeah, what does this do for companies like that are dealing with Silicon Valley Bank to now kind of have to face the reality that they have been a forced closure, essentially? What does that do for them? What does that do for their business?
Sure. So, fortunately, things have changed. So as of Sunday, those companies that had deposit accounts with Silicon Valley Bank have been made whole. So, things have ended up in the right way. We don't know necessarily what the fallout is going to be from the VC community because there is a large number, thousands of venture capital firms that actually banked with Silicon Valley Bank. So I would suspect that they will probably be pulling back on, how quickly they're going to be making investments. But, when we were working with our portfolio companies on Friday, just kind of helping them navigate what's the right next step. One would, obviously open up a new bank account, direct your customers to get their payments directed to that new bank account versus to Silicon Valley Bank. And then, we just assured our borrowers that we're here, we have money to deploy. And so because of what happened on Friday, we're actually working with about 7 new companies who are interested, who are coming out of the Silicon Valley Bank crisis. And then, obviously working through our database of over 20,000 contacts, letting people know that we're here to help where appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, these are businesses, you're obviously based in Westlake in the Cleveland area. These are businesses that are here that do have to deal with the fallout of this. It's not necessarily a regional problem by any means, right?
No, not at all. I mean, yeah, Silicon Valley Bank, they have a far and wide reach as well. And so companies, around the globe are going to be affected by this. But, like I said, it's as long as they can rely on the people who have invested in them thus far and then know that there's resources available to them, if they can navigate through this.
When we talk about the overarching themes or the big picture here, we haven't seen something like this done, I believe, in more than a decade. So when people hear that, that's not a good thing. And there are already the prognosticators believing that there is a potential for a recession and things like that. I mean, what does this say about where we are and potentially where we could be headed over the next couple of months?
Well, I think even before this happened, I think there was a lot, I'm not an economist, so I can't speak to if we're going to have a recession, but it does look like things are headed in that direction. I don't think that we're going to head into anything that we experienced in 2008, but I do think, again, as these things happen, it's an opportunity to make things right, and it's an opportunity to kind of change the system and ensure that companies are safe, the economy can still operate, and that investors can still make wise investments.
Does this sometimes lead to extra layers of caution being taken by companies and people when you consider the fact that some banks could be having this difficulty, and you may be in a situation where you have to figure something out over a weekend to try and make sure that your business and your personal finances are in a good stand or in good standing?
Right. Well, I think for, obviously companies who are banking through traditional banks or other types of lenders, there's definitely going to be an extra layer of caution. We're very fortunate in the fact that we are a standalone, non-dilutive debt fund, and we also can provide equity into the companies that are in our debt portfolio. So because we're a standalone, we're able to be nimble, and we have the flexibility to kind of, sort of customize what our offering is depending on what the borrower's needs might be.
When you consider how fast everything kind of changed here and how much work you all needed to put in over the weekend, well, yes, it's been more than 10 years since something like this has happened. Is this something that you feel that, if more situations like this would arise, that you and everybody you work with, your colleagues, are comfortable dealing with, are comfortable handling in the time that's given? I mean, is this something that you have to kind of look back on what was previously done because it is such a rarity?
Yes. And actually, when 2008 hit, I was actually in the banking industry. So I can tell you that was a much larger disaster than, what we're experiencing today. I think, I always try to be an optimist. And if anything good can be looked at, around this, companies, at least our two borrowers who were banking with Silicon Valley Bank have their capital. They were able to get that out. The government did the right thing. The feds did the right thing by making sure that those companies can become whole. And now it's just a matter of kind of navigating what's the next step. And, I'm sure it's going to probably make people think differently in terms of what their forecast might look like for this year. But, I think if everyone continues to march forward and make those dollars available, we can still have a strong economy and investor network.
Anything else that you want to add? You answered at least all of my questions here. Is there a little bit that we didn't touch on that we should have?
No, I think the only thing, I appreciate the opportunity. We invest in companies across the country, but we're really, because we live and work here in Ohio, we're really invested in, what's happening with the companies here, and, making sure that we can continue to support the businesses that are in our own backyard.
And then lastly, how can people get in touch if they have any questions, if they're interested in getting involved with what you all do? What's the best way to do so?
Sure. So they can certainly go to our website, which is just riversascapital.com. Or, my email is actually on the website, or they can email me directly.
So we know many of you possibly are watching that and thinking, okay, should I be doing anything different here? Well, obviously, if you have any banking with Silicon Valley Bank, you would know about the issues that they've had, and you would be able to change that. If you have less than $250,000 in a bank right now, you are good. Experts say don't worry about what you have right now. Just make sure that the bank that you are with is FDIC approved, because then you'll have many more protections than those that do not have the FDIC approval. I know this is complicated. We'll break it down, try and make it a little bit more easy to understand, digestible tonight on 19 News at 10 and 11. That's starting over on the CW, of course, 10 o'clock, then 11 o'clock over on CBS. For now, I'm Jeff Slauson with 19 News. Have a great night. Much more to come here on 19 News with our digital weather stream as well, coming up in about 45 minutes.
19